And now we're ready. The stage is set for our third technical session of the Congress, which is about taxation of new age digital industry. Now, the size of digital economy in India is projected to be worth $1 trillion USD by 2030. A major contributor is going to be the new age digital industry, which calls for a more sumptuous tax ecosystem for sustained growth as well as foreign investments. Many other regulatory changes are also required to facilitate and realize its growth potential, and that is going to be the focus of this technical session. To take it forward, let me first quickly invite onto the stage the anchor of the session, Mr. Prashant Agarwal, partner, PwC India. Welcome, Mr. Agarwal. Please join me in inviting our esteemed panelists for the session, starting with Mr. J.B. Mohapatra, former chairman, CBDT. Mr. Mohapatra. Thank you for joining us, sir. We're also being joined by Mr. John Joseph, former member, CBIC. Very glad to have amongst us Mr. Anil Kumar Gupta, Principal DG, DGGI. Welcome to Mr. Gupta. We also have with us Mr. Upender Gupta, Chief Commissioner, CGST Panchkula, as the next panelist. Also on the panel, we have DG FIFS, Mr. Joy Bhattacharjya. And we're very glad to have amongst us Mr. Arun Mishra, consultant to GSTN and former Special Secretary, Govt of Bihar. And a final panelist for the session is Ms. Charanya, Laksmikumaran, advocate LKS. Thank you, Ms. Charanya, for joining us, and a very warm welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, let's welcome our guests onto the session and hand it over to the anchor of the session, Mr. Prashant Agarwal.
Thanks, and thank you all of you to be here. After lunch, it's always difficult to hold on to the audience, so I think we'll try and do that, because I don't think this is a heavy technical session, or at least I'm not someone who can hold on to the technical part of it, although we have very eminent panelists who will definitely try and help us through with this whole journey of new age digital industry. We all know that what is going around in terms of the new age digital industry. Of course, the industry by itself is evolving, and there are new platforms and various mechanisms through which, as India, we are really growing on the digital side of it. At the same time, there are also areas where we are not very clear of how tax should play the role. Could it be the regulatory body in terms of regulating some of the types of industries which are flourishing in the digital era? Or is it need to relook at the strategy of how you want to tax it? I know we all are aware of how the online gaming is going about. We have cryptocurrencies, the platforms around it, what is going on that. We have data centers which are coming up, and we don't really know how the taxation around it would work, to be honest. And as we move along, we are seeing AI, metaverse being talked about. So it's a very relevant subject to really hear about. And what we'll try and do is we'll try and cover a few of the industry-specific areas. And then in the end, the idea would be, since we have such eminent panelists, to understand how best industry and the government should come along. That's how we'll try and structure our discussions at this point of time. And we'll try and keep it short. As I said, post-lunch, having a 1-hour session is something not that we would really want you to keep up to. So to start off with, I think I can't stop myself but to start with online gaming, given that it has been a topic, and as Arun sir is laughing all the way, we have government officials as well here, and I know the challenges of how much we can talk about it and what you can provide for it, sir. But at the same time, Upender sir, apologies, but I will have to first come to you. with all what is going on, what's your sense, sir? I mean, of course, we have seen the amendments which have come about. It's effective 1st October. And we have seen the news reports of how the show cause notices have come about. Two things, sir. One, do you believe that the stand for the past, at least, is it something that is a winnable cause for the government? And if it is so, and if the government was so confident, why was there a need to make a change, to be honest? So if you can just help us with your input on that.
Yeah, thank you, Prashant. Thank you, Shailendra and TIOL for inviting me here. The most difficult question, and I don't know whether all the questions will be difficult in this session for us, and I'm sure they will be, because the three things which he has talked about are, new age, and everybody is groping in the dark. So as far as online gaming is concerned, and then I would start with the disclaimer that this is a view which I hold myself personally. I'm not representing the government view here. So personally, I feel that, when we see our GST law, to my mind, online gaming was taxable. Skill game, chance game, that distinction was there from the Supreme Court decisions and many other decisions also. But GST law doesn't make any distinction, although one can argue actionable claims and things like that. But probably industry also has been thinking, and I don't know from where that thinking came, that part of online gaming is taxable and at the rate of 18%. How that view was taken, I am not very sure. What has been done by the council now and which has been made effective from 1st of October is that, all sorts of games are taxable at the rate of 28% on the gross value. And personally to me, it appears that the way GST law is, the value of supply has to be determined in the hands of this is a transaction between the supplier and the recipient. The supplier is the online gaming platform or online gaming company. The recipient is the person who has opted to play the game. And he's paying some consideration. It is 100 rupees or 10 rupees or whatever. It is that payment of 100 rupees makes him entitled to play the game. So therefore he is, to my mind, receiving the services worth 100 rupees. Now there is a system that somebody would lose, somebody would gain, somebody would get the money back. The online gaming platform or the online gaming companies would retain some money. Should that be the consideration for the supply? To my mind, because the way the GST law is, we have to have the value of supply. The tax has to be borne by the ultimate recipient or the consumer, if I can use that word, and the price which he is paying. Because once we say that it should be on net gaming revenue or some other basis on which the GST can be charged, who will bear that tax? That is a big question. Because it is a destination-based consumption tax, so therefore it is the recipient who has to bear. The recipient is paying some money, out of which some money goes as the prize money for others, some money is retained by the supplier, but that is not that to my mind is not the value of supply. So therefore, what has been done, to me, it looks like it is as per the GST framework. About past, what was the need? That is the question which Prashant asked. I don't have a particular answer to this issue, but to my mind, someday it has to be settled. And this 1st October happens to be that day. That is how I will put it. Because there was confusion. On the one side, there was a view that it is taxable. On the other side, there was a view that it is taxable to some extent, in some cases. And the value of supply is not the gross value. The value of supply is the amount retained by the company. So I think that is all I would like to say.
Thank you, sir. Anil sir, over to you. I mean, of course, as much as Upender sir has been in forefront, we know that there are notices which have come out. One, would you want to add to what already Upender sir has said? Secondly, there were news reports where it was said that the All India Gaming Federation has written to MOF regarding the amendments which have been brought in, whether they should be suspended or not. So would you want to throw some light on it? Because the amendment came about, but what we believe is all the states have yet not really notified the relevant provisions for that matter. So just for the audience, if you could clarify that aspect per se.
Thanks, Prashad. And first of all, thanks to TIOL for giving me this opportunity to participate in this discussion. So first, Prashad, on the issue, as you all know, this change which has been brought with effect from 1st of October, it has been done after a long journey. As you all know, two group of ministers were constituted, and this was not an easy takeaway question or issue which could be decided by the GST Council. So they have taken a lot of time, deliberations, industry has also participated, they had given their viewpoints, and keeping all considerations in mind, the government has taken a call and come out with these amendments which are in place now with 1st of October, as you all know, which my colleague Upender has explained very well, the intention and the content of those amendments. And as you all know, regarding, yes, that is right, that a few states have not yet ratified those amendments, but that call would be taken by GST Council, and it is already there inbuilt in the system itself. They have said they will have a review after 6 months of the system which they have evolved, how it works, whether what they intended has been achieved or not, how, whether the fear which the industry and the perception which is around the world that the taxation is too high, it may kill the industry, it may badly impact the sentiment, etc. All those things will be taken into consideration when during the next 6 months or so, when a review on this issue would be taken. Of course, I would just like to add, I have nothing more to add in this. As you know, the matter is already, as far as the past period is concerned, is sub judice before Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Gamescraft, which matter is again coming up in October first week, listed for 10th, I think. And so judiciary will settle down the past. As far as past period is concerned, I think judiciary will settle who is correct, who is not correct. But the government, by bringing these amendments, has tried to make it more clear, remove ambiguity in the minds of tax collectors as well as taxpayers as to the taxation of online gaming, and bringing it very transparent that this is how we intend to tax it, so that there are no disputes in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. John sir, I'll just come to you. And you have been closely associated with policy making till very recently. And you've also seen the transition from service tax to GST. Why this issue now? I mean, is it because the industry really flourished during the GST period and it came in the eyes of the taxes? Or what happened so differently in GST from service tax? If you can just help us on that.
No, because if you look at in the GST and the service tax, anyway, thank you Shailendraji and the TIOL organization for having invited me to this function, so that I can meet a lot of my mentors, seniors, colleagues and friends, both from the industry and from the department. It was so nice to meet all of them after a pretty long hiatus. So as to the question you are putting in, Prashant, the whole issue you must be knowing, even in the lottery also during the service tax era, the government has been tinkering with the system from 2010 onwards. Every time an amendment comes in, people go to, and if you look at from the department's view, Sikkim High Court was the villain. From the party's view, Sikkim High Court was the savior. So it always used to come like that one. Again, the amendment was made in 2015, 12, and subsequent years also. But government was never able to succeed, still it is still stuck in the Supreme Court. Now, if you look at the way the gaming industry has come up, as we all know, technology always grows so fast. As people say, it almost doubles. I mean, the number of transistors, I mean, it says the Moore's law says that it almost doubles in 2 years' time. So what happens? The taxation mechanism may not be able to cope with that one because the pace of technology's advancement may not be able to cope with the advancement of the taxation policy, the way you tax, or the different methods of taxation, what you are going to do it. So it always will be a very lag period. Secondly, why it is coming up now? Gaming industry is one of the most important sunrise sectors in the country, if you ask me. A lot of investment is on the pipeline. People have already invested also, and it has been picking up like anything. Because in the West also it has been coming up like anything, and here also it has come up in the same way, going in the same way. Now, there are two issues. Is it generating income? Yes, definitely it is generating income, as by giving a lot of service to the people, as well as giving employment to the people also. I mean, it's generating income for the GDP also, it is good. And there are two ways when you look at the taxation of an industry or a sector. The problem is that, okay, you should not kill the golden goose. That should be the first priority. Because if you kill the goose, then you are not going to get any golden eggs after that. That is the end of the story. Now let us say if you kill this industry, what will happen? They will all go to, enough sites are available. They will play it in all those sites like Bet365 or something. Whatever sites are available, you always play earlier also. They will go to other jurisdictions like Malta, Gibraltar and everything, and then they will have a good time. So it will go only underground. And in a technological era, it will be extremely difficult to control something, this internet particularly. You can totally stop it, but it will become very, very extremely difficult to control the thing because technology has advanced so high. So the right approach should be tax it so that industry will survive, the government will get the money, and the government will use that money for development purposes. That should be the idea, that the basic way the taxation should happen. But as Gupta ji was also telling, for the past period we have issued a lot of notices which is creating such a huge cry in the system, because as I can see it, none of the fellows are having net worth even to give that one. It will be totally bankrupt. I mean, either they have to go to the IBC and finish it off and start a new company to do that one, unless this is solved. Otherwise, even the judiciary, let us say, they take a favorable view to the party, then it's okay. If it doesn't take it, then the problem will be, like government itself has to step in to support this. Otherwise, it's going to create a whole lot of problems in foreign investment coming into the country.
Sure. So we have heard the government side of it. Joy, you are the industry guy here. And as sir said, have we killed the golden goose? I was just looking Delta Corp. I mean, as a as a avid share market player, you have Delta Corp. You have 42% of the stake is with public, actually speaking. So is it only the industry which gets impacted? Is it the investors, including public shareholding, which may get impacted? What's your sense on that?
Thank you, and firstly, thank you for allowing me to be of this absolutely stellar panel. Well, I want to say something. Firstly, I want to commend the government on a lot of things. In the last 6 months to a year, they have worked with commendable speed in an industry that was not regulated. And why did we as an industry want regulation? Because regulation brings certainty. Once you have certainty, that encourages investment, that allows investors to think there is a growth path, there's a direction. So all those we welcomed, we went to the government and said, we want to be taxed, we want to know under which ministry we fall under. Now we know we fall under MeTi. So government has done some amazingly commendable work over the last year. The taxation that they have now introduced for the GST 28%, that's a 350% increase. It's a big blow for us. It's a very difficult blow. But the way we look at it as an industry, and as seniors of the industry, we believe that what the government is, if the government in its wisdom, a GST council has sat together and said, this is what we think it should be, we will also give the government that benefit and say that the government has decided in its wisdom, we'll give it the next 6 months, and if the government sees that the impact is not beneficial for the industry, we will look at it that way. So as it was a very difficult pill for us to swallow, but as an industry, if you are a mature industry and we wish to be a part of the 5 trillion growth story and we think that 1 trillion will be the e-economy, then we must commit to it. And if the government says we commit to it, we will. The part which is a bit disturbing for us, of course, is the retrospective taxes which have been called on us. Because let me tell you one thing. One is the government, if the government puts it out and actually enforces it, the industry closes. And as the point has been made that capital flies, technology today cannot stop capital from flying the shores of this country. The technology, VPNs, everything exists. And I can tell you that in the last 6 months to a year, we've gone and made representations to the government at least 5 times about illegal gambling sites which are taking people from India, Indian stars who are advertising there. So this will continue and this will only exacerbate the situation. There'll be a flight of capital, sadly, and that's not something we want. Secondly, and I think that's the second point, that you said that even if the government does not actually use it, does not exactly enforce it, but it stays over our head. All of you are gentlemen of finance, you'll understand contingent liability means every investor who looks at it will say, that's a contingent liability in your books. I would not like to invest. So what you're in effect doing is scaring away the investor, even if the government does not actually enforce. Just by keeping it in abeyance, you're keeping away investors. So for us, these are the two things. And as I said, there is so many good things the government has done. And we have looked at the government and we said that if you say 350%, we'll take it. We'll take that 350%, run with it, and come back to the GST Council 6 months later and said, okay, sir, we managed to do it, or sir, this is killing our industry. But retrospective is a big blow, is a much bitter blow.
Can't agree more, Joy, on that. I mean, in fact, the innovation that this industry brings in, and a lot of other in new digital, is for us to see in the way they actually manage their business. I mean, today only there was how Dream 11 has come out with the mechanism of ensuring that the customers are not really running away, and they are able to, in a way, give better schemes, even through with tax that has to be applied upon. And you're right, Joy, how the whole regulation system with MeitY was working out, online, real money gaming, SRB is being talked about. There is a lot of work which had happened. Even on direct tax, for that matter, the industry was pretty much with the government on how withholding tax had to happen. Charanya, coming to you, your legal brains on what is going on. So what's your sense? How do you see the past turning out to be? I mean, and how do you see the future for this?
Right. Thank you, Prashant, and thank you TIOL and Shailendra for accommodating me. I know a lot of people here came to me and said, oh, we are going to see Badri on a panel. And then I had to disappoint them and say, no, I'm sorry, you'll have to see me.
We wanted diversity, huh?
Clearly, I'm bringing diversity,
Yeah,
but
thanks.
hopefully more than that. Yes, so very interesting question, Prashant. And as I said, I don't have ready answers, okay? But before we get into the amendment, what is going to happen in the past, what is going to happen in the future, the validity of the amendment, etc., let's just take one step back, right? When we talk about the digital industry, and we're talking about taxing the digital industry, right? Today we have concepts and business models which nobody, even in their wildest dreams, could have imagined. Okay, that's what has happened. Technology, platform, network effects, the access to smartphones. I think India has the highest penetration of smartphones in India. Cheap broadband or cheap access to internet, I should not say cheap, inexpensive access to internet, the way India has given as compared to, say, the developed nations. All of these have, and of course the demography that we have the youngest population, we have the population which is very happy to be online. I think all of us are aware of that, and we are also victims of being online all the time, I think. But what this has led to is commerce therefore exploding on that platform, because the access that they get to consumers is unprecedented. Now, when we talk about in GST terms, right, what is really taxed in GST is a supply. It could be supply of goods, it could be supply of services. But when we talk about digital industries, we also have to take into account the concept of a platform, right? So, what role does a platform play? Okay? Who is the supplier? Who is the recipient? Okay? Who is the supplier of, say, a platform service? Is platform service amounting itself to a gaming service? Are the consumers, so assuming 5 players are there on a platform, are they playing amongst themselves? What is the role of the platform vis-a-vis the consumers or players on that platform. Then there are nuances to that. The nuance would be, what is the type of game that they are playing? Okay? Then you enter into this whole concept of, is it a game of skill? Is it a game of chance? So we can't have a single toned approach or a single brush approach. Again, I commend the government for having come forward and having deliberated so much with industry. I think it is work in progress. I don't think we have seen, frankly, the final version of this. The amendment is only, I think, the first step. It has taken the industry and the government, because GST is a new law. I think it had its own teething problems. Then we were all beset with the COVID, so 2 years of that. The backlog that it created, we just saw 30th September and the number of show causes that had to get issued. All of this, in the middle of all of this, they've definitely taken this up in the best possible manner so far. Now, the case that is being made out, and what has happened is, as everybody here agrees, or at least notes and observes, that there was confusion. Okay? Again, as I said, who is the recipient? Who is the supplier? What is the service? Is it a service? Is it the platform? Is it a game? Is it a game of chance? Is it a game of skill? What is the skill involved? How much is the element of chance? So it's a preponderance of skill. That's the test that needs to be seen. And there are n number of Supreme Court judgments, right from Chamar Bagwala, then understanding what is an actionable claim. You look at Anraj, you look at Sunrise. These are law that has been laid down 50 years ago, right? Are we going to change the law that has been laid down and held the field for 50 years because you want to tax a new industry? So that is one question at a policy level which people need to take. Second is, let us look at the amendment, and then I will come to the past period, right? The amendment itself says that online gaming is now going to be defined as a specified actionable claim. Okay? Now, if this be the case, in my opinion, it hurts the government's own case for the past period, because to this extent of what is an actionable claim, is it an actionable claim or not, that I feel that argument has sort of got weakened. So that is one aspect. When it comes to the future, again, I think this amendment, the way it has been structured, the valuation rules, there are some welcome amendments in the valuation rules given that they've come. Some things I think need to be tested, but I think all of this will get tested on the constitutional anvil. That's what I'm going to say. I don't think I've given any answers though.
That's fine, Charanya, that's quite explanatory. Mohapatra sir, is it our GST's Vodafone in a way? I mean, what we have done? I mean, I was just thinking, and you are actually on the fence on both sides. You have the industry on that side, you have the government on this side. So what's your sense? Could it have been handled better? I mean, whether government wins or industry wins is secondary, to be very honest. And as Joy has said, and John sir had said, this really could have an impact if it goes through the way it is supposed to, for the past especially. So any thoughts that you would have on that?
Yeah, for the bystanders and for those who are not stakeholders, those who are researching into this aspect of the gaming, online gaming, it's very interesting. But for the direct and the indirect stakeholders, the situation is a bit different. I will not get alarmed as yet, because the expectation of the government with skilled, intelligent people with great maturity and having the experience of an institutional memory which runs deep. So one would expect not just proportionality, but also synergy among the various legislations, rules and regulations. So just have to wait a while for the dust to settle, and things will be back to normal. While saying so, the genesis to me of why it happened is that many things happened in quite a short period of time. In Jan 2023, the Finance Bill came. In March 2023, the Finance Act came. In May 2023, intermediary guidelines came. In August, September, the GST Council Secretariat meeting and the 51st meeting, and the amendment in September 2023 with regard to the GST, CGST Act. So all these things within a span of 8 months, it was too much to swallow for both the stakeholders, direct stakeholders, and also to the industry. So I think there will be some synergy which will be worked out. We didn't have a problem when it came to the amendment in the direct tax 194BA and 115BBJ, right? We didn't have any problem because it's not tested as yet. So 194BA, there will be some issues which will be coming up, but it's not as acute as has been made out, as is being played out in the indirect tax front. But I believe that things will settle. With regard to what will be, the basic issue is that once the amendment is done and dusted, right? So once you have the amendment to 202A and you have specified actionable claims and you have clubbed both game of skill and game of chance under the same bracket, the only issue which remains is the retrospectivity. Nothing more, nothing less. It's just that whether the new amendment will be acting upon pending litigations or all the reopened cases of the earlier years. So whether, retrospectivity would be an issue, and there should be some clarity on that one. Of course, the industry deserves it, and they should be getting the clarity. But from the direct tax point of view, our experience with retrospectivity has been mixed. We have tried retrospectivity, at least to my memory, in 3 occasions when it has been happening almost, alternate years. But what I remember is that we amended Section 37 in 1990s, in which we said that, any illegal payments will be non-deductible. And it was made retrospective from 1/4/1962. There was not even a single opposition to that thing. In 2021-22, in my time, we had amended Section, I think, 40A, in which the claim of cess as an expenditure was disallowed. And it was made effective from 2005-2006. There is not much of an opposition. When we had an amendment in Section 9 in 2012 following Vodafone, it took 12 years, 11 years for the rollback, right? So there was some justification given as to why retro tax in case of Vodafone was bad tax practice, because people would have built their businesses, made arrangements for business restructuring without understanding the repercussions of the amendment to Section 9 much earlier. So you could not have made the retrospectivity, you should not have introduced the retrospectivity to the amendment in Section 9 from 1/4/1962, right? So the retrospective tax rollback in 2022 was based on a particular interpretation of retrospectivity, which was done sometime in 2012, then it was re-examined and done back in 2023. I fervently hope that we don't go that way and travel that distant in order to make our things clear.
Surely.
But there are 2 interesting things which I would like, us to hear. I want to take it out from me. Now that the game of skill and game of chance is done and dusted, it's over. Game and skill and game of chance is over. But suppose this interpretation will remain in litigation pending litigations and all those for the past years. The issue is that we are litigating between the government and mostly the intermediary, right? The people, and one says that there are nearly 400 million of them who are putting in the money, right? It's their money which we are characterizing and recharacterizing. Where are they? Has there been any representation from their side? Why should the intermediaries be acting like ventriloquists for them? Where are their voices? Is there any federation or is there any association of them? Would they stand up and say that we need not be counted, the intermediary will take a call? So this is one thing, okay? Involve the people who have paid into the whole conversation. And the second thing is that if at all the online gaming would be comprising majorly of the, the sports gaming, then is sports gaming in today's day and age and with the data available, is it 100% chance-based or majorly chance-based? Is it a shot in the dark? So my view is that the sports technology, including sports prediction, based on the predictive analytics of the past 10-15 years, has made uncertainty in the sports events and sports competition little less than in the 1990s or 2000, right? So if India plays Nepal or Afghanistan in cricket, is there any great uncertainty in picking sides? Who will be the winner? In cricket, that is. If India plays France in football, it's a no-brainer where I will put my money. So, the point I am trying to put across is that the predictive analytics, especially in the sports, and both in recruitment, in selection, which you can find out, many would have seen that Moneyball, Billy Bean, the manager of Oakland Athletics, picking up people, undervalued players to make his team and win games, right? And movie has been made of that. Basically number crunching and all those things. But even without the computer, high-end computers and number crunching, your basic instinct, that will tell you who is going to win and who is going to lose, right? If Indian cricket has a match in Chipak, which is a dust bowl, I know there will be two spinners who will be playing. Mr. A, the left-arm spinner, Mr. J, the left-arm spinner, and Mr. A, the right-arm spinner. If I play in Mohali on a green top, I may have Mr. J, but I will not have Mr. A. Things are pretty simple, right? And if India plays Sri Lanka in Kandy, I know Indian batsman Mr. K would be scoring a century or near about a century, right? So the predictive ability in sports has been enhanced because of the data which is made available, not just by the intermediary, but from all sources. So it is not as uncertain, it is not as, shot in the dark as was told some years back. Sports, the sports recruitment, the sportsman selection is based on data. And the same data which goes to the actual manager to select team is the same data which is processed by the virtual manager while making their roster. So I'll say that, we have to look at the science behind the sports gaming and come to a conclusion, actually, whether it's a game of chance after all, or we are very near certain. See, the point is, I will say 99% of the time, one would be accurate in saying that this thing is going to happen, right?
Sorry to cut you short, sir. I mean, since in the positive time, if you could just complete your point.
Okay,
please.
okay. So what I'm saying is that the glorious uncertainty in sports, I think it has been overstated. With technology, it has changed. But one can do a certain kind of prediction with a great level of accuracy. Thanks.
So I grossly underestimated how long this topic on online gaming can go on. So I don't know, I can ask all the questions, but I'll rather come to the solution part of it because there are problem statements which are there. So 2-3 things, and I'll pick up Joy first, you. How do you see the solution on online gaming? And more importantly, the idea of why can't industry be more proactive in terms of collaborating with the government? Because see, the technology will keep on changing. You'll have new things coming up. You have cryptos, you have other things. Only when you have show cause notices or alarms being raised in terms of how a tax being raised, we end up being in a situation of having those collaborations through associations. Could it be better handled even by the industry?
There's Arpita out there in the hall, colleague who works with me in the Federation of Indian Fantasy Sports. We reach out to the government in the last year. From FIFS, you would have made between state and central governments about 140 representations. Okay, we are very keen to meet with government. We are very keen to work with the government. We commend the government on a lot of fantastic steps that the government has done. We have clearly told the government these are the problems we have. Our problem is retrospective because it hits the industry. Most importantly, it hits investors. And investors are really for us in this, the money always flows from one shore to the other. Money has to go somewhere. So for both players, if the taxation is too high and investors, money will not still stay here, it will go somewhere. But we have been continuously dealing with the government, and to give it credit, the government has been continuously working with us as well, which is why you saw a law happen in 6-7 months. So I think that's not the problem. What we're looking forward to is the self-regulatory body that the government has been talking about, and for that to happen as soon as possible, because that's the one uncertainty that's left. Once that self-regulatory body is in place, then, and why do we need a body? Simply, it's a very simple thing. We need a body because this is technology, it changes very fast. So you need something in between the government, because the government has to work slower because there are rules and laws to follow. So like TRI, a self-regulatory body is extremely important for a future technology industry. So the SRB definitely, and please, if we can remove the uncertainty about retrospective taxation. These are the two needs that the industry has, nothing more, nothing less.
Sure. Arun sir, what's your advice from you have been part of the policy making, worked very closely on the GST Council side, now part of the GSTN. What's your advice to, let's say, the industry? How should we work this out together? And not just from, let's say, online gaming perspective, but overall, given how the nuances of the whole digital industry is changing, what's that you believe we can do? And the other point I would ask is around the language of the law. That again is something which is it updated or up to mark to meet the requirements? We have in corporate tax, VDA introduced very recently. We have internet being redefined or online gaming now being defined in the law. So how do we take care of both sides of it, whether it's law or from an industry perspective? Your point of view, sir.
Thank you, Prashant, and thanks, Shailendraji and TIOL for inviting me. You see, much has been said about retrospectivity of the tax. I am very clear on this particular aspect that the notices that you have seen, they are not signs of retrospective tax. That tax kicks in, not that tax really, it is by way of, in my view, much of the amendment is clarificatory in nature. The rate, of course, is one thing which adds a new dimension to it. Otherwise, the fact that it was a supply, the fact that it was an actionable claim, the fact that there was a value to it, in my mind, there was no doubt about it. What actually causes the problem now is that the whole thing seems to have bunched up now at the wrong time, actually, when the new amendments kick in. And that is because of a coincidence of certain circumstances. One being the
30th September meeting, 1st October in a way.
Cut-off date for that. And some of them were not in the control of the government also. You see, these issues could have been taken up earlier, but for the intervention of Corona and the and the pushing forward of the due date for the returns. So that is how it has come to this. And insofar as the second question that you put, that how do we go forward, you see, this is the online gaming is the tip of the iceberg insofar as the digital industry is concerned. A lot more is to come. A lot more is to come, and I fervently hope that industry, as Joy was saying, and the government come together, sit down, because as even Charanya was saying, technology has enabled business, particularly intangibles, to be provided in n number of ways. You cannot imagine that even now. You just even cannot imagine how a particular service can be provided by whom, where, and to whom. So therefore, it's of the utmost importance that industry, who is familiar with this, should sit with policymakers and the lower echelons of government, the guys who do the adjudication, to sort of educate everyone about the models, ways of doing business, because much of the dispute stems from an improper appreciation of the various models of business. And one area that I can see this dispute looming is that virtual place of business.
Yeah.
So therefore, what you said, the only way is for industry and government to come together and sort this out.
Sure. So Charanya, you...
Just 30 seconds, not much. Just to add to what sir is saying, I think gone are the days where industries would find a tax haven to go and set up. Those days are, I think, slowly going away. I think we have pillar 1, pillar 2 to answer all of that. Having said that, what, as Joy was also saying, what industry needs is certainty. And I think that is what is going to push the industry to work with the government more. The fact that they would rather have certainty, they say, okay, is it 18%, is it this percent, whatever is the percentage, 28, whatever it is, there might be some up and down with that. But the fact is, you know, is there certainty, can we do business? And 10 years later, I should not come with a surprise. That's really, I think, what is going to trigger this move for dialogue.
Can't agree more, and lawyer doing it in 30 seconds is even amazing. Mohapatra sir, on the law side, I mean, I'll just take 5 more minutes here. How can the language of the laws be more evolved and up to date in terms of what is happening around businesses? Because it can't be regulations, you know, law cannot be a regulatory body by itself. So how can we ensure that the law by itself from a language standpoint is in line with how businesses are working and without interrupting the business or disrupting the business, if I may use the right term here? So is there something that can be done, and have you seen that? I mean, I'm sure globally we have seen OECD guidelines and others being working together with the industry to understand how industry works, come out with a white paper, and then implement it as part of the law. Something that you may think should happen from a law perspective as well.
So you're asking about the language of the law?
Yeah, more on the drafting of how we do it, yeah.
I understand 100% what you say, and you know, to translate and to convert the essence of the technology in the way we need to know into legislation, I think it will take time. We are not up to the mark as yet. And because in the conversely, we also do not understand the full potential and the dangers of technology. Why I'm saying so, take the example of this gaming, okay? The SRB, the self-regulatory bodies, and everybody knows the 70% or 80% of the whole gaming will be sports gaming, right? But in the SRB, we don't have the provision of a sportsman, ex-sportsman as part of the SRB. We have child psychologists, we have educationists, we have public finance experts, we have public experts and whatever, right? But we don't have a sportsman. Who better than a sportsman to come and tell that this is gambling, what you are crafting is gambling. But he's not there. So we need to work on that one. But the essence is that with technology we can do many things, positive and many things very adverse. For example, in this gaming also, suppose there is giving an example of the binary, which the GST guys would be knowing, is that binary gaming, yes or no, give yes or no. So so there is this thing. Will there be a curfew in this area? Yes or no? As an SRB, I may be little tight, but I will say, okay, go ahead, do that. The second question will be, if there is a curfew in this area, will there be arson after the curfew time? Yes or no? I will be again taught on that, but I will let it go. The third question will be, if there is arson, will your neighbor's house be burnt? Yes or no? This is a no-brainer. This is incitement to violence. So the point is, technology can do all these things. But do we understand the full import, implications, dangers of the technology? Technology can do wonders on one side, but technology can decimate legislation in the other. Must understand what technology means to that particular sector and how it will be used. In the online gaming, we have everything going for the online gaming intermediary, that you should not be laundering, your software should be, not be, designed in such a manner, it should not be wagering on any outcome, or it should not be, it should not be spreading falsehood, this, that, and the other. But is there anything, any advisory for the users? Can the users act in concert and game the gaming company? Can they do that? Of course they can do that. So the point is, the full scale of operations of the technology in the sector in which it is working, it has to be understood. And I agree with you, legislation has to reflect the same language of the technology it wants to speak of.
Sure. Thank you, sir. So, John, so last 30 seconds for you, and of course, Upender, you will, and Anil sir can end it up. What's your point of view? How can we have better clarity in the law, more systematic compliance without surprises? What do you, sir? 30 seconds.
Thank you, President. And I will also agree with Mr. Mohapatra, sir. Because what is required is that, okay, there should be a close liaison between the industry and the lawmakers. Because, first of all, for whatever you make it, whichever law you are making it, you must understand what the problem is. There should be clarity on both sides. The industry should also have a clarity, the lawmakers should have a clarity, then only they will be able to make a clear definition. And like what has happened now also some clarity has come into the system. That is always an improvement, because if you are not clear about what you are taxing, it can be interpreted both ways. Depending on the officer who is concerned, depending on the person who is concerned, it can be argued both ways. On the party also can argue it in a way which will be beneficial to him also. So the ideal way is to have a consensus approach, get to the nitty-gritties of the whole thing, understand the first thing, understand the thing fully, and then only frame the law which will be applicable to everybody, giving a clear clarity to the whole thing.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
Actually, there is a system in place where the lawmakers interact with the industry bodies and try to evolve a consensus how to define a particular term or how to define the particular procedures. And that you would have seen very evidently when GST was being framed or was being implemented. And that is one of the criticism of GST, that too many changes happens at too fast a pace. But probably that was happening because of the interaction between the with the policymakers and the industry. The problem which is particularly in the digital era is that too many changes are happening on the business side. And obviously the law, probably rules can keep pace, but the law cannot keep pace, because there is a particular methodology of framing a law, going to the legislature, and that is a long run process, and then 29 states agreeing, getting it amended from the same day, and that is what has been pointed out also. But that is only a procedural thing. 5 states you would have seen have passed retrospective ordinances also. So we have to find a way that how do you capture the ever evolving or fast happening changes and incorporate in the law. That is a big challenge, and we have to find solution to that.
Thank you, sir. Anil sir, any point at your end, please, to end this off? It's work.
Just to add, I think everybody is on board that this digital economy or digital era transactions are fast changing, evolving. It's a learning for both the industry as well as the government, on the government side, because technology is changing so fast, and to frame the law, keeping in mind the fast changing technology, is a real challenge. I think the way forward is that we have to engage continuously ourselves in a continuous dialogue so that we can bring some sort of a certainty in the subject in the times to come. But since a lot of things which are in a normal supply or a normal law in a physical atmosphere, like who is supplier, who is recipient, what is place of supply, those things are invisible in a digital industry. So new concepts have to emerge. We have to work together to achieve certainty. Thank you.
I think, thank you so much. So although we may have a challenge on what happens on the retrospective part, but I think one consensus is that the industry and the government needs to continuously have those dialogues to have the clarity in terms of what the businesses are doing, because it is for the businesses that the laws are, and it can't be the other way around for that matter. So it's important that the government understands, the regulators understands what the businesses are doing. At the same time, it is for the businesses as well to be at the forefront to make that explanation clear. With that, I'd like to thank all my panelists here. Thank you so much for your time. And in the end, I'll also like to thank Shailendra, whom everyone thanked. He also invited us here. So thanks, Shailendra, for having me here as a... of course, I mean, the time's up has been there for the last 15 minutes, so I thought I'll just close this. But yes, for sure, sir. Please go ahead. You can take mine.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Vijay Rai. I work, interestingly, at the intersection of the corporates, Government of India, as well as with World Bank and multilateral agencies. Mr. Shashank knows. At the World Bank Ease of Doing Business, we did 39,000 reforms so far. It was not easy. I agree with Mr. Mohapatra that this is an evolution, and logic can defy anything. Logic is not important here. Between being a part of G20 for 9 months, we have realized that digital transformation was the biggest topic in the entire discussion, right? Now, my point here is 3. One is jugalbandi between the stakeholders and the government, which is very important. What are the items which are not understood by the government? What are the challenges faced by the industry? This happened with the Data Privacy and Protection Bill also, it is still under process. And 200 consultations have already happened. Still, there was no clarity, by the way. So what will happen about sports and gaming? Joy knows it. I am the chairman of the CII for Emerging Technologies, IT, ITS, and Startups. And tomorrow we have the International Technology Summit. We're talking about certain issues like this. But $1 trillion is going to be made only by the sports and gaming in the next at least 5, 6, 7 years. And we're looking at $5 trillion. My area is artificial intelligence and IoT and all of that. So I can very well say with the trade, technology, policy, and law, there has to be symbiosis. And that has to happen faster if we need to attract capital investments. Otherwise, in a cross-border world and in a borderless world, things are happening. I know this is a subject which is not so easy to understand because it's a national issue. But at this end, I would suggest, coming from both the sides, we have launched the deep tech policy from Government of India recently. And I work with the Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India's office, where we actually are looking at this technology policy under the decade of the Prime Minister. He says it is a decade, and the entire transformation and economic growth has to be propelled by technology. I would request this August panel to really look at really forming a real task force on this, where things could be speedily implemented, understood and implemented, by the way, and that jugalbandi happens in real terms, actually. So that is my kind of submission. And I understand what you said is very right, that we need to really have the interface and a dialogue and a continuous process, what you also said. But coming from the chamber and multilateral organizations and as well as industry, my view is very balanced. And from the government side, we are also taking it very, very seriously. What technology can be taxed and how much. And tax is not the only issue, by the way. Tax is only one issue. It is the whole ecosystem, how we can make the entire tax system more robust, nationally as well as internationally. And the last point, that I'm a member of the Global Value Chain Task Force, where with India is wanting to integrate into the next level. Forget about semiconductor, which is happening right now. So there are so many new and emerging technologies, next generation technologies, which are underway. What will happen to those? So with that mindset, government also has to formulate and form a task force where a knowledge-based understanding also happens. And the legal terms and conditions and other things, taxation and policy reforms also happens very symbiotically. So this was my understanding going around the world in 140 countries, talking to people at various levels, and also United Nations and all of that. So I hope that observation and point was just to make things a little more clearer as an outcome. And thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much.
No, thanks. Great way to end the session. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope this was useful. Thanks to the panelists here. Thanks once again.
A big thank you to the panelists and thank you, Mr. Prashant, for moderating it so well. I request all of you to please come forward for a group photograph. And I also request Prashant and Neha from TIOL to please join us on stage to present a small token of appreciation to all our panelists. And now, ladies and gentlemen, as we present our panelists with these tokens of appreciation, there's a very small announcement for all of you. Right outside this hall, we have the Alamgir Hall, where we've done the setup to capture your reactions, your feedback to this event. Please make sure you take out 2 minutes of your time, go to Alamgir Hall, and give us a your video bite on your experience at the TIOL Tax Congress 2023. Thank you.